in, which you did now too. The whole idea of body positivity, which I'm just going to use the easy words, like that was something that was important to you as a person, and things that happened to you, and that cemented for you a foundation for how you wanted people to think about themselves within your really safe space of consignment. And I just wondered if you wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think for me that work of I started at about 18, I think, when I really decided I didn't want to think badly about myself anymore. I had intense feelings of self-hate and struggles with lots of different things, but making that choice that I was going to just speak differently to myself and creating that pattern over and over again of, if I said something came out of my mouth impulsively, that I would counter it with something positive, and then eventually the positive thing replaced the negative thing. But that took years, and it took work, active work. And so the reason that felt like a connection to the store was because that was happening in Modern Millie. That was happening with my boss, who was 14 years older than me. It was 3 of us. Her store manager was also about the same age as her. And the both of them were not at all afraid to kind of shoot back at someone being like, oh, this does look good, but what if I was like 5 pounds lighter? They'd be like, what if you were 5 pounds? What do you mean? And bringing to light, I think, how the way you speak to yourself affects the way people see you and affects the way you feel going forward. And if you can stop it sort of at that source, it does make a difference, and it does change the way your brain works when speaking to yourself, like in an image in the mirror, right? Criticizing a picture of yourself, getting dressed in the morning, like such a vulnerable space to be in, or in a fitting room, right? Being like up close to a mirror, where that's not how you're getting dressed usually in your home, but how that triggers certain things. So I made a choice in my second location when I moved to Main Street to take the mirrors out of the fitting rooms. So you have to open the curtain to see the mirror, but it's an enclosed room, but I felt like it would make such a difference to not be caught in this space where you're not accustomed to whatever. I just wanted to change it. How does something feel before you determine how it looks? And that all began, I think, with my own journey of how do I feel in this, and how does it work for me, especially working with consignment, where I have to be like, I'm lugging a big box of bags into the store earlier. Like, there are things you have to dress for. I'm not like, sometimes I know I'm gonna not have to do anything like that, and I'm gonna wear my silk dress and feel fine. But other times I need to wear something that feels a certain way for a certain type of work. And lots of people have that experience, whether they're teachers or working retail or just a parent or whatever. Like, there's so many different things in life that require us to have a sort of uniform, even if it's not a uniform dictated by the particular job, right? So that was sort of my mentality in terms of consignment, was having so many different things in one space, right? I'm not a boutique that's focusing on one type of style or aesthetic. I am a place where I'm bringing lots of different styles, different things, all with a quality standard, a style standard, but I'm bringing them all into one place so that there are lots of different brands, right? Brands cut different things. Like, I might spend 2 hours in Banana Republic and I'll never find something that fits me just right because they're not cutting for my body. These are things that I struggled with as I grew up and was shopping in the early 2000s, trying to wear low-rise jeans from Abercrombie and Fitch, and having them like scowl at me for having to go get a ladder to get up. I was like, guys, I'm just gonna go to the thrift store where no one is bothering me. I get to just surge in peace. I get to find things that are gonna work, try them on in the fitting room with nobody asking me or trying to upsell me on friggin' nail polish at the register. It makes me crazy, right? It makes you crazy, and it takes away, I think, from the peace that can be shopping. And I think I hear from people all the time. I hear from customers all the time. I hate shopping, but I really enjoyed myself today. And that, I think, is because of the environment that we've created at Trilogy, that I've trained my staff, I've trained myself, broken out of habits that I acquired while working at J. Crew, right? There are certain things that I took from there that are positive, but there are other things that I've had to really ditch and sort of unlearn or detrain or whatever, train myself out of. But yeah, hopefully that answers a bit of that.
Okay, so 3 things. Number 1, my uniform is what?
All black.
Oh my gosh, just like a black suit.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking me what I was going to wear the other day, and I said, I have 12 black blazers, I'm going to wear one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's interesting, that idea of uniform, even that we create for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's this idea of a capsule wardrobe that's going around right now, and a lot of people talking about that. And then of course the Marie Kondo stuff. It's like we're really, as a culture in America right now, I think, coming to terms with the excess and the mentality of things being disposable, right? I'm gonna wear this just for now, this trend is now, and then it's, we're ditching it. And I think when you have you create for yourself a sort of wardrobe that feels like a uniform, there's much more likelihood that you're gonna wear that garment the number of times that we really have to wear it in order to justify the environmental footprint of creating the garment. So it's supposed to be 30 wears, and I think a lot of people aren't wearing things 30 times. Actually, I would love to know, does anyone have something that absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt you've worn it 30 times? I'm so glad, because this is so uncommon, I think, as far as I see, right? I mean, I have people all the time who come in and they're like, oh, the closet full of things with tags attached, and I was like, I always want to be like, why are you saying that? Like, it's a good thing, let's dig into that. Why? Why are you buying things you're not wearing? A closet full. It's one thing to have like a handful of things, right? Here and there, every so often. I do that, but I'm getting my things from a consignment store and like, okay, I didn't wear it, I guess I'll resell it. So it's tough, and I think having that mindset at a young age is so beneficial, and I think you're already making a huge difference, more than you might feel.
So it's important and relevant that you started your business when you were 25. Right?
Yeah.
Like that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And now your life's a little bit different, right? So
Yeah.
now you're 10 years, and now it's 2 stores, you're not just starting out, you've got married, you have a baby, like, I don't know why I was telling everybody that. Why was I telling everybody that? Oh, you weren't sure you were gonna be able to make it today, and then like you canceled at 7, and then like you re-upped at like 10:30 or something, and you go, but I might be a little bit before 2, and I was like eating Cheerios and like, my jammies or something, and so I'm good.
But the flexibility of having a small business, like, I think that this is the mentality, right? Is like sometimes you have to, and this is the benefit, this is one of the major benefits that I have, is this flexibility. And this is my former manager, Christina, who is now amazing, and who is now gonna be starting her own business. She's a master seamstress, a former FIT student, amazing, that's what she wanted to do, but she helped me out in a time when really needed support, postpartum. But these are things, right? And I know for some of my staff, it's hard sometimes. I'll be like, yeah, I'll be there on Tuesday. I say that on a Thursday, and then by Tuesday they're like, oh, when are you coming in? And I'm like, did I say it for what? I don't know. And I'm like, I'm napping with Hazel, and these are things that I am so benefiting from a small business right now more than ever, because I need that flexibility. I need to be able to come in when I can and not go in, but I'm also now back to being committed to certain days where it's non-negotiable. I am the one who's opening the store. Without me, the store doesn't open. That's it. So I have to figure it out eventually, right? And my daughter's 2.5 now. I've had plenty of time. Get a job, Hazel.
But you're doing everything, and you're doing everything. Like, there's a lot of plates that are spinning.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important for everybody to hear too, right?
And I opened the second business. I signed the lease when she was 3 months old. Well, I was like, I'm gonna be a mogul. This is gonna be so easy. She was so easy. I'm like, oh, she'll just sit and be with me all day long. She's fine. That's not what happens. That's not what happened. And I learned from that, right? And I really struggled. And Nyack, this is the Nyack location. But Nyack suffered because my availability was so limited. So I learned from that, right? I was absolutely the most available person when I opened Tarrytown. Tarrytown, I was there until midnight. I was there till 10. I loved it. I was happy. I had no friends in town. I had just moved to New York from Massachusetts. I was like, I don't know anyone. That's fine. I'm gonna hang out here and watch movies and just decorate. I'm gonna decoupage this, and I'm gonna move that around, and I'm gonna whatever. And it was a wonderful time of blossoming creativity and making connections and having customers come to the door at 8 o'clock and be like, what is this? and have me be able to open the door and be like, hey, come in. And these, you know, making these amazing connections with people that I wouldn't have been able to do if I was like, I gotta be out of here at 6, I gotta go. So that was, I think, the beauty and the benefit of that, and then even being able to switch locations with 1 month being closed. I was open in January as I was working on the other one. I closed in February. I was closed for the shortest month of the year and opened on March, I think like 14th or whatever it was, but was open a little bit before that for like my regulars. But that was like because I had all the free time in the world, and I would not change that for anything. I mean, trying to do that now, I see the difference, right? And being able to be in Nyack and be present there has made such a difference. Since January has been the shift that I forced my husband to put his business on hold so that I could go back to work. And that has been a really good fix for us. But yeah, again, like having the presence of the owner, I'm the one who cares the most. Nobody else cares even close to as much as me, except for Christina, who just has incredible work ethic, and like understands that like when the business thrives, she will thrive, right? Like there's a connection, and I think if I can give you anything as an employee, if you're an employee somewhere, it is not going to hurt you to give it whatever you can. Don't like pour yourself out completely, right? You have to have boundaries, but it is benefiting you as an individual and how you're going to treat your work later. If you decide to be self-employed, if that's a route you want to take, you are going to benefit from putting everything into or treating something like it's yours. I did that at Modern Millie. I was full-time 2 years. I saw my boss once a month. She would come in and cut checks. I mean, maybe sometimes more than that, but very rarely. I did all the intake, all the pricing, all the cleaning. I cleaned every single day, sweeping, dusting. There's a lot of clothing fiber, as I'm sure you know. This was my whole thing. I did all the customer stuff. I did all the displays, and that was fun for me. I really liked to do that. I was in my early 20s. I was like, I have all the time in the world to give. I'm happy to do this. I love this work. And I treated it like it was mine. And people ask me all the time, is this your store? And I was like, I'm 22. What do you mean this is my store? Yes, no. But I loved the feeling that people would think that about me. And I knew that was because of how I showed up at work, not because, it made any sense that it would be my store. So, yeah.
So here's, when I talk about like National Retail Federation says that what percent of US retail is done by a single store operations, or in this case, we'll say 2. What percent? It's one of the very first things we were talking about. What? 90. Yes, 94.5%. Guess what? It was on the midterm, will also be on the final. Because I want that to be a major takeaway from this class when you leave is, your conception. My conception, everybody's conception is retail equals Amazon, retail equals Walmart, retail equals Nordstrom. And that's not it. Like it's really not. The lion's share of the business done in this country is done by people like her.
I did not know that number was so high.
By people like you. You know what I mean? It could be done just that way.
And especially consignment, where you don't have to buy $100,000 or even $50,000 worth of merchandise up front to fill a store. You don't have to have a certain look or whatever. There's so much flexibility. I'm able to be creative. I like slapped things together. I mean, I really took my time in Nyack and I invested in it because I could at that stage in my career. But Tarrytown, like, I had my friend Michael, who just had a mill at his house and trees, and he just knocked down some trees, milled some logs. I have like raw wood logs that he did for free. He like built it's all 2x4s that I like whitewashed. It's the cheapest materials. He did it for me. I was like on a shoestring. I did everything I could, and I just used what I had. A lot of this was like kind of handmade, but not like custom, bespoke, whatever. It was handmade for function in the quickest and quick and dirty, easy, whatever's gonna work. And it's not, Tarrytown's not like aesthetically what I would necessarily want to walk in and go, amazing, but it is a warm and comforting, welcoming place that people walk in and don't feel intimidated. They don't feel, they come in and go, this has character, this has charm, this feels sincere, because it's just whatever we have thrown together.
Yeah. So I want to open it up for questions or comments or anything. Who wants to kick it off? Yay!
I've been to your store before, the one in Nyack,
cool.
and I have to say, as a customer, like, I didn't feel overwhelmed or like bothered that someone was gonna come up to me and like try to upsell me like you said, cause now it just feels like we're hustling through shopping versus like taking our time and browsing, and like when I visited your thrift store, I was just amazed by like just the atmosphere. I felt like it was sincere and like no one was bothered.
And
Glad
it's
to hear
interesting too, because Nyack is a kind of consignment and thrift hub.
Yeah, Nyack has one major thrift store across the street from us, and then 2 consignment stores, and then there like a few other secondhand stores where they source their own. So yeah, it's 7 different stores in Nyack selling secondhand, and I think we all have a similar mentality. We all have a similar ethos where we want people to feel comfortable, free to kind of be creative, to not feel like someone is trying to sell you something. And frankly, if I have lost sales because I was honest with someone, they're standing there and they're like, oh, I don't know, like, what do you think? I mean, I very easily could be like, that looks incredible on you, it looks amazing, and I could do that in a way that feels true. But if I'm like, hey, it doesn't seem like you feel comfortable in that, and they'll go, yeah, I kind of don't, then you're not gonna pull it, don't buy it. And that, I think, creates a sense of trust. And not that it's all about like getting people to trust me, but it is, I think, about letting people feel like they're not, gonna be pushed into something that they're gonna go home and regret. Or go home and have someone be like, that doesn't fit you well at all. And have them go, well, the lady at the store said it did. Who's right, your family member or me? Usually me, but I mean, sometimes not. No one's gonna believe me, I'm a stranger.
But there is trust, right? Like that, and that helps mean that you wanna go back to additional,
What brought you to this store in Nyack?
My best friend, so she's an electrician, she works in the area a lot.
She's an electrician?
Yeah, she is.
So cool.
Yeah, and she was like, hey, like she was working at Grace's thrift shop,
Yeah.
and like she saw this one jacket and was like, oh my god, I have to bring Nor here, that's my name by the way.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we went on a sunny day and I fell in love with the area. I visited, your shop, the secondhand shop, and like a few others. I completely forgot the name because I was just so like, I was so curious about the area, and I couldn't help but just fall in love with the area. So.
I did too. That's actually why I said yes to Tarrytown so quickly. So when I was 19, I did Thanksgiving in Suffern with a friend because my mom was like, I'm not buying you a plane ticket. I'm from California. She was like, no, and Rockland, Suffern. So but my friend took me to Nyack, and I felt the same way. The town made such an impression on me, and at the time had a lot more antique stores and different things, and I got this sequined butterfly disco blouse for $5 from a thrift store that I still have, but it made such an impact. And when I looked at a map, when he was like, it's a town called Tarrytown, I saw it was across the river from Nyack, and I was like, done, great, cool. Yeah, so that's Nyack is great. On April 27th, it's a Saturday, we're doing like a secondhand shop hop, if you know about that. So everyone will have discounts, and it's all, if you visit all 7 stores, then you get a chance to win the raffle prize.
And all the stores get along.
Yes, we do.
One another. It's not like cutthroat competition. Like these events are synergistic.
Because we all are selling secondhand items for a reason, and that reason is bigger than us, and it's bigger than profit. So it is important that people know, like, and if I don't have something for someone came in the other day looking for a gown. I don't sell very many gowns, I don't have them. I know that Hillary at Honor and Bloom does, and I'm gonna send you down to Hillary. People come in and look at my men's section and go, it's not exactly like, I don't have very much, but we're looking for something else. Try Second Chance Shop, they have men's, try the record store, they have some men's, it's like, and I'm not doing myself any harm by spreading and helping somebody find something they're looking for in another secondhand store. Yeah, because otherwise they're gonna go to the mall. If I can manage to get it secondhand, I'm sending people to giant thrift stores in New Jersey that are majorly competitive to me. Like, who's gonna shop in my store and buy something on consignment at $30 when they can maybe find something similar in a massive 2-story thrift store? But I'm still gonna send you there because ultimately, if you need something, I want you to try and find it secondhand. That means more to me than anything else. So, yeah. Anyone else?
I guess, where did you really get this mindset from, that it was really important for you to create a positive environment in your work? It sounds so natural, but all these billion-dollar company that's not how they operate. So where'd you get this mindset from?
I think probably starting with my mom. She got me into shopping secondhand. My mom jokes that she discovered Home Goods 2 years ago and was like, "Did you know there's a place you can buy new things?" And I was like, "Don't play with me." She's a secondhand queen, loves it, will get things for free. But I had turned my nose up at it when I was really young, and what changed my mind at 8 was I wanted a pair of overalls, denim overalls, desperately, more than anything in the world. My mom was like, "You are 8 years old, you're growing so fast, I'm not gonna spend $25 on new Old Navy overalls for you." And then I fought her forever, and one day she came and she was like, "I found overalls, I finally got you overalls, I just washed them, they're in your drawer." I wore them every day for a week, and the next weekend she was like, "Do you wanna go to a yard sale with me?" And I was like, "No, I don't like doing that." She goes, "Well, guess what? I spent 50 cents on those overalls and I found them at a yard sale." And I was like, I have 50 cents right now in my piggy bank. And it was realizing that I had the autonomy to buy things for myself, like that style and fashion was already important to me. And so that, I think pushed me into this realm of it's okay to shop secondhand, it's cool, it's great, it's empowering. So from there, I think, and also having lots of body shaming coming from every which way, in the early 2000s, they were ruthless. And as I know it is now still, but at the time it felt really targeted to my age group. And I never felt like that at Savers or Goodwill or whatever. And so I think once I got to Modern Millie and I saw it in practice intentionally, with conversation and awareness from my boss and my manager, I realized that this was something that I could intentionally do and incorporate into the way that I speak to people, the way I speak to friends, the boundaries I set with friends about the way they speak about themselves around me, because it does trigger negative feelings, when someone is whatever. So I think it was just this combination of, and building blocks, right, of realizing I can do this on purpose. I can create this environment that's of my own design. And then in 2012, I was part of managing in Newburyport in the real thick of it all, and that was when the Rana Plaza collapsed in Bangladesh, the factory collapse. And that was such an eye-opener for me, realizing the actual repercussions of fast fashion and garment factories in these places that don't have oversight, or do, but it's not about people, it's about profit, right? So there's this, then that became a big part of the conversation. It was more in the zeitgeist, people over profit, profit over people, and I think that was where I realized there was so much potential for secondhand and consignment stores to create an actual difference, because people can come in and just finding a good deal, right? My prices are about 1/3 of retail. So someone who is savvy, who wants to, or who love vintage, right? I've always done vintage and modern both. So someone who wants to be creative and find something that feels really unique and one of a kind, that's a good motivation. And also to have a conversation with somebody and empower them with the knowledge of what they're doing by shopping secondhand, I think just kind of adds to the good feelings and make sure that people are gonna be more mindful of how they shop in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a good question, thank you for asking.
So you kind of said that you went to college. What was your degree, and do you use it? Do you apply that?
Sort of, yeah. I studied English literature, and sociology. I was really big into the sociology department, but I didn't take enough classes even to make it a minor. I was a quarter away. But I loved sociology and the application of it in my English literature classes, just to see the greater impact of culture. And my professor, who I studied under pretty extensively, was really big into breaking out of groupthink, and challenging norms, challenging authority, challenging, he was getting himself in trouble. But I think what that did for me was tell me that I could do hard things, or things that I didn't see other people doing, but I didn't have that. I mean, and I did see someone else doing it. My boss, Christine, right, had her store for a while, and I learned under her, and I had the opportunity to be trusted, to be independent in the space and to make it my own. My dad's a small business owner, so I saw that, but my degree, I know that my degree is used all the time in my own communications with my customers, the way that I'm able to, even just responding to emails, there's a level of professionalism that I have, because I don't make a lot of errors and things, you know, that there's a clear, I can be really clear, I can write out these clear policies. So all that has been, I think, made quite easy, much easier for me because but I do regret such a fortune. You know, it's tough. But I learned a lot in college. I think college was more of a time of challenging what I thought I could do, stretching myself and pushing myself to, you know, become more independent, more self-reliant, and more, and just like realizing again what my passions are and how I wanted to apply them to life. Yeah. But I learned pretty quick I didn't want to be a teacher, which is what I thought I wanted to be.
And I love being a teacher.
I will eventually someday, but I didn't want to be like, I don't
got
want to
it.
be a high school teacher, sorry.
No, it's all good. Listen, it took me a whole career to get here.
Yeah.
So it took me a while. Dr. Rose, did you ever hand up?
Yes.
Okay.
We're supposed to say I love Tarrytown. I think it's like so cute.
That's a great town.
But, I was gonna ask you about COVID and how that kind of, you said you bought the place somewhat recently, which I was kind of surprised by because I would imagine that you would have like the COVID wasn't the best for your shop, but.
It was fine for me.
okay.
I mean, yeah, I did, so I only had the one store, I had Tarrytown, but, you know, COVID we were closed for 103 days, but I had a friend with some foresight who in February set me up with, like, I had a website established, but he got me set up with the online store. So I put everything that I could up on the website and threw myself into that. I had a great accountant who helped me get the PPP loan, so I paid my staff normally, whether they worked or not. I paid them through the time that we were closed, and it gave me the ability to pay them again because I got it twice. So again, once we reopened, that second one came in and just supported, because my landlord I had no break on rent whatsoever, so that was it. I also had a community of people who really wanted the store to survive, so I had a lot of people buy gift certificates. Most of them used them, but many of them didn't. And so there was a percentage of that just was effectively people like saying, please stay, you know, make this work, figure it out. So yeah, I was really, I think, lucky because people still wanted pretty things, and I put a lot of jewelry up. I had a lot of crystals and just like things that felt nice to look at. And then I just did drop-offs, like in town. So many of my customers were local, so they'd buy something, I'd bring it to their house, drop it on their porch. It gave a moment for like connection, and again, kind of reminding everyone that there was still a community. But Tarrytown really rallied around its businesses. I don't think anybody closed because of the pandemic in Tarrytown. Yeah, there's other businesses that have been empty for a long time for no reason, but yeah, I don't think anyone, I'm sure some people suffered, maybe a couple of restaurants maybe, but none of the retail stores
Do
closed.
you know that Greek place? It's like on the corner.
Yeah. Do I ever? Yeah. Yeah. They're awesome. No, everyone seemed to do okay, and everyone who was doing takeout, like the Greek place, but a lot of the more fancy restaurants that weren't really, it was tough. I know it was tough for a lot of people, but again, like I was single, living at home alone, and I just had all the time in the world to throw myself into whatever I could do, you know, making silly videos, making videos about like what we were actually going through, and then just spending a ton of time trying to figure out the application for the PPP loan. Being declined by my bank, who I had been using for 7 years, was pretty big blow, and I divested from that bank because I was just like, really? I was asking for so little compared to what I know you shelled out, and the fact that these banks were like, we're going to prioritize these bigger companies. Like, granted, I'm sure they had bigger, more employees, but still, I felt personally wounded. But I ended up getting it through my credit card processing system. But my accountant was the one who was like, every single offer you get, you apply across the board, so it really did help to have someone like holding my hand through that. It's worth paying an accountant.
Yeah.
The happiest money I ever spend is on my accountant. So, yeah.
But you have to, like so many other positions, right? You have to surround yourself with people who know things you don't.
Yep.
And you have to be ego-less enough to say, I don't know that, and I'm gonna either ask for help or pay for what I need or somebody's expertise. That's a good lesson.
Yep. Do everything you can on your own, and then outsource once that like limit has been reached. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I do all my sales tax on my own. I don't think I'll ever outsource that, but yeah, taxes can take a hike, it's not funny. Not funny.
Still use the online store?
Not really, kind of. So I stopped once we reopened because I was making double sales, which was super embarrassing to have to say to somebody that sold in store this morning, and like refund their money, which was fine. Everyone was pretty much a good sport about it. But it just got too complicated and confusing and tricky. It's a full-time job really that someone has to do, like be on top of that unless you have things separated. So that's what I did just recently. I took some pictures, or I didn't, but I hired a photographer to take some professional pictures of some of our showroom items. We have like one specific room that's things that are like $120 and more. So those things are things from like, the things I photographed were more like $300 to $1,200, that I just had great pictures taken of them, and I put them up and created like a fancy thing just to have it up. And then the goal is now to start that up again and try and do some more, but I do want to hire somebody to do that, unless I do a little bit of wholesale now, so unless I just put my wholesale up and make that easy, because it's hard with secondhand. You do all the work for one item. Every other online store that's selling new things has a dozen or more of the thing that they took the time to photograph and measure and all the things, so it does make it a little more complicated, but with jewelry and things like that, it's pretty simple. But yeah, that is a goal.
Okay, yeah.
I was kind of like, just based on what you just said, like how do you organize the store, I guess, like, especially with vintage, like do you do it by like how old it is and what it's from, and then also like how do you choose what to buy?
Yes, well, I don't buy, so I just choose what to carry, what to like present for sale, and then I pay people once the item is sold. But it is a good distinction just to say that out loud, because like I know Buffalo Exchange is a really common place, right? But they buy outright, so they do a lower percentage to incur that risk. They're much more selective to incur, and I am very selective. But so I choose things like based on style and quality is sort of what I say. But a lot of what I do has to do with like I'm watching my customers, I'm listening to what people are admiring, what they're trying on, or paying attention to that kind of thing. And taking, somewhat what I like, and then also what I think people might like to see or what they might need. The store is organized by size, and everything's mixed in together. So all the vintage and modern is blended. Tops, jackets, sweaters are all together. Like coats will be separate. I did ask them to do this just to make
Did you?
everyone
There were
feel much
grants
harder.
upstairs.
Yeah.
You were going, make certain. I'm sorry.
And then we separate the more expensive items, because I found that having them on the sales floor can be really confusing if someone's not really like, if they're visiting for the first time and they see something for $320, even if it was $1,000 new, they're still gonna look at that and go like, oh my God. Because there is still this misconception too about secondhand. A lot of people think that consignment is thrift. They expect thrift store prices, not realizing without a conversation that, you know, I'm paying people, I'm splitting the profit, I don't own these things. So, you know, that is the distinction. And I'm working, I think, harder to be discerning about what I put on the rack than a thrift store would be. So you're more likely to, you know, find several great things. And also people are more willing to sell their great things than give them away. Some people are happy to give away good things, but not that many. Yeah, so it's a mix. It's kind of a tough question, but it is something a lot of it is intuition. Yeah, and pricing too is a little bit intuitive, and also just recognizing like what is the market value of something like this. What would something comparable be, especially with considering vintage, right? What would something comparable be new? And wanting also things to sell and be accessible, but also knowing that they have value, so, yeah.
The room is a designer room.
Yeah.
Like, so basically.
The collectible vintage in the
Yeah,
center, yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So-
I just wanted to revisit your like your fitting room layout, because I know it seems kind of trivial, but I just think it's genius, like having your own separate room. But then I love what you said about like feeling out your body first and then stepping out, because it seems like the perfect in between of like Aritzia, if you're familiar with their fitting room concept, where it's like everybody's out open and like there's
That's
no
Filing's
mirrors.
basement. Yeah, go on. Sorry, I love it.
It
Yeah.
can be like super intimidating, but it's
But it also-
like, and unflattering, like super
Yeah.
close, small, terribly lit,
Yes.
like sounds perfect.
But being in an open concept, and this was my experience as a teenager in Filing's basement, where it was the same thing. You could like have your own little corner, but it was pretty open, and you had this like community, this camaraderie of like random strangers being like, that looks awesome, that looks good, or be like, oh, can you help me zip this, and then being like, oh, it's not quite, but it feels better, I think, to have someone be like, oh, you're so close, than for you to be like, oh, struggling, and go like, oh, I guess I'm too big for it. You know what I mean? It's a different way of engaging with the experience of trying something on, totally. I didn't actually know that it even had stores. I thought it was just online.
Really?
Yeah,
More
I had no idea.
information, though. So when you're in there, out in the room, there's 5 people who are like, can I get a new size for you? Like, can I get this? And they're
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. They want it so bad.
I'm just thinking like because I work at Aritzia, like I elaborate on that. Like it's definitely interesting how you were talking about how like in your business, like you're honest with people. At Aritzia they make commission, so like people will not be honest with you and they'll tell you like, oh, like buy that, or buy it in this color or buy it in this style because they want me to clean up.
Yeah.
And like I can admit that, but it's just like I like that approach because like they kind of force us like
Totally.
as employees, like you have to do this. If you don't, like they schedule you based on like your performance.
Yes,
So
yeah,
if
J.
you're not
Crew did
making
the same
enough money,
thing.
if you're not doing this, you're not getting as much like shifts as this person.
Yeah.
Which is like I hate that they do that, but like I don't know, they do really well. That's kind of why I work there.
Yeah.
But like
Same with Bergdorf.
yeah, no, but no, I like that approach, how you're like honest, and I feel like that's a good business practice to have instead of just like pushing on people buy, but like honesty, like I
Yeah.
think that's the best thing.
But I think that makes it's not something you can do when you're not self-employed.
Yeah.
Or if you're not in an environment where your boss is saying this is paramount to be, part of the brand, right? That's part of my brand. Like it's important to me that is a place where people feel safe and welcome. And some people will come in and feel like I have had this like process with a customer where they'll be like, I'm just gonna look around. I'm like, you are welcome to look around. Or they'll be very apologetic. I didn't find anything. That's fine. If you feel inspired by my store to wear something you already have, that's important to me. So like you don't have to come in here to buy something. You're welcome to just come in. But I mean I didn't make this up, but the hierarchy of needs, it's like the food pyramid, but for buying. I think I talked about this last time. I think Fashion Revolution came up with it, which is an amazing organization out of UK. If you are not familiar, you should. They're great. They do like a transparency index for different brands, what you know about where they're getting different things, from the fabric, the fixtures and all that. They're really, really great. What they're paying people, they do this amazing breakdown of like what it costs to live in Bangladesh versus what they get paid hourly. Anyway, so Fashion Revolution did this hierarchy of needs, where the whole bottom is use what you have, and then borrow, mend, maybe shop secondhand, and then buy new. It's like, it's in there, we have to buy new sometimes. But I think that like whatever we can do to use what we have, that's important to me. Sometimes people will try and consign something and then they'll be like, actually, they want to keep this. And I'm like, keep it. That's fine. By all means, if you're gonna wear it, that's all I care about is I want to sell things so that they will be worn. I want to sell things for you that are sitting around in your closet that you're not using, because clothing is not garbage. It shouldn't be in the garbage, and it shouldn't be feeling like garbage collecting in our homes, blocking up our ability to get creative with the things that we actually are using. You know, like you don't have the same opportunity and flexibility when you're bogged down with stuff that doesn't fit, stuff that you're holding onto for whatever reason. So anyway, yeah, I'm like, all I want is for this to be worn. But it is a tough one and there's no shame in it really. It's like part of a business model. I get it. But it does, yeah. I have a close friend who worked at Bergdorf for a while who had such a hard time. He's very committed to vintage, Versace particularly. He's a collector, and he'd wear things and people would be like, I want that, and he'd be like, get on eBay. I don't know what to tell you, there's nowhere else. Good luck. But he had a really hard time ethically knowing what he knows and why he buys secondhand is important, and being like, this crap is made in China and they're charging you $400, $800 for it. He was like, that felt soul sucking to me, to be like, I wanted to just tell people, go home, spend 4 hours on eBay and find something you like. Go to Trilogy. Like, he would send people to me all the time who were like, I don't know, you know, and that's tough. He's like, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to tell people that this is, but it gets to a certain point where you
Well,
keep your mouth
that's
shut.
exactly how I think Aritzia is very overpriced for what it is, because again, it is like fast fashion, and like I talk to my friends and they're like, I don't shop at Aritzia because it's so expensive and they bombard you, and it's like, I mean,
most of my stuff is secondhand. I buy, like, I never buy from a Aritzia even though I have a discount. It's just, I know I have my morals and stuff like that, but again, it's a place I work at, so it's just like, it's a whole different thing. So it's like, if I'm wearing something and someone's like, oh, like, I like that, like, it's not from here.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard to feel comfortable in an environment where you are being, you know, like basically scheduled for your performance, to say to somebody, like, shop secondhand, go, I found this at the Goodwill I found it at the Housing Works, you know, whatever. Yeah, it's a hard thing to actually forge an honest connection with somebody. And I think that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about Trilogy, is it does create an opportunity every single day to create an honest connection with a person, because there's no ulterior motive other than just to make somebody feel good and happy to be there. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. All right. I need one of you to